Digital afterlives. What happens to your data when you die? You'll be dead, but your Instagram account will keep getting tagged in photos, your smart home will keep learning your routines, and AI will keep generating content in your voice. Welcome to the digital afterlife no one prepared you for. Death used to be final. You died, your body was buried or cremated, and gradually you faded from living memory. But in 2025, death is just the beginning of a strange new existence. Your social media accounts become digital tombstones that friends visit and update. Your cloud storage keeps auto-renewing, preserving thousands of photos and documents. AI systems trained on your messages can continue conversations long after you're gone. We've accidentally created the first generation of digital ghosts, and nobody knows what to do with them. Today, we're exploring what happens to your digital identity after death, and why tech companies are struggling with problems that would make science fiction authors jealous. Facebook has over 30 million dead users, and that number is growing by 8,000 daily. These aren't just abandoned accounts. They're active digital presences that continue to shape the online world. Dead users still receive friend requests, get tagged in photos, and have birthday reminders sent to their living friends. Instagram accounts of deceased users often become pilgrimage sites where friends and family post updates, share memories, and even have one-sided conversations. The account of a person who died 5 years ago might be more active now than when they were alive, as their digital presence becomes a communal space for grief and remembrance. But here's where it gets weird. The algorithms don't know these people are dead. Facebook's People You May Know feature still suggests dead users as potential friends. Instagram still creates story highlights from their old posts. LinkedIn still sends connection requests from deceased professionals. Your Google Drive, iCloud, and Dropbox accounts don't die with you. They just keep charging your credit card. These services automatically renew subscriptions, sometimes for years after death, until banks finally close the accounts or cards expire. This creates a digital purgatory where your files exist but become increasingly inaccessible. Your family might know you had important documents in the cloud, but without passwords or recovery methods, those memories become digital archaeology projects. Some people have discovered deceased relatives' accounts years later, finding treasure troves of photos, videos, and documents that would have been lost forever in the pre-digital age. Others have watched helplessly as accounts get automatically deleted when payment methods fail, erasing digital histories that can never be recovered. Perhaps most unsettling is the rise of AI systems trained on deceased people's digital communications. Companies like Eternime and Hereafter AI create chatbots based on a person's messages, emails, and social media posts, allowing the living to have conversations with digital versions of the dead. These AI ghosts can answer questions, share memories, and even generate new responses in the deceased person's voice and style. Some families find this comforting, a way to preserve wisdom and personality beyond death. Others find it deeply disturbing, a technological violation of the natural order of life and death. The technology is advancing rapidly. GPT-style language models can now generate text that's nearly indistinguishable from a specific person's writing style when trained on enough data. Given that most people leave behind thousands of messages, emails, and posts, there's often more than enough data to create convincing digital doubles. Your smart home doesn't know you're dead either. Your Alexa might keep trying to remind you about appointments. Your smart thermostat continues learning from patterns that no longer exist. Your Netflix account keeps generating recommendations based on viewing habits that stopped abruptly. These systems create an eerie sense that the deceased person is still somehow present in their digital spaces. Lights might turn on at the usual times. Music playlists might start playing automatically. The house becomes a museum of algorithmic memories, continuing routines for someone who will never return home. Tech companies are scrambling to create policies for digital death, but their approaches vary wildly. Facebook offers memorialized accounts that freeze a profile while allowing friends to post memories. Google provides Inactive Account Manager that can transfer access to chosen contacts after prolonged inactivity. Apple, however, makes digital inheritance nearly impossible. Their terms of service explicitly state that accounts are non-transferable, even after death. This means that if you don't share your Apple ID password before dying, your family loses access to potentially decades of photos, messages, and purchased content. Twitter simply deletes inactive accounts after prolonged periods, treating death the same as abandonment. TikTok has no clear policy at all, leaving families to navigate customer service systems that weren't designed for grief counselors. A new industry has emerged around digital death preparation. Companies like Digital Legacy Association and Password Depot offer services to catalog digital assets and plan for their transfer. Digital estate planning attorneys help clients navigate the legal complexities of posthumous data ownership, but most people die without any digital estate planning. Studies show that 70% of people have no plan for their digital assets after death. This leaves families in the difficult position of trying to access accounts, close subscriptions, and preserve memories without the necessary credentials or legal authority. The process can take months or years. Tech companies require death certificates, legal documentation, and sometimes court orders before granting family members access to deceased users' accounts. Meanwhile, subscription fees keep accumulating and important memories remain locked away. Here's the uncomfortable reality. Dead users are often more profitable than living ones. They don't change privacy settings, unsubscribe from services, or delete accounts. Their data remains available for analysis and advertising targeting. Their social media presence continues generating engagement from friends and family. Some companies have built business models around digital death. Eternal messaging services charge fees to deliver messages after death. Digital memorial companies sell virtual headstones and online funeral services. The grief industry has gone digital, and it's lucrative. But this creates perverse incentives. Companies benefit from maintaining dead users' data indefinitely, while families bear the emotional and financial costs of dealing with persistent digital presences. Digital death creates impossible ethical dilemmas. Should family members have access to deceased relatives' private messages? What about search histories, location data, or other intimate digital traces? Some argue that death should release all privacy restrictions, that families deserve complete access to understand their loved ones' digital lives. Others maintain that death doesn't negate consent, and that private digital communications should remain private forever. Courts are still developing precedents for these cases. Some have ruled that email accounts are similar to physical letters and should pass to inheritors. Others have maintained that digital communications have different privacy expectations and should be treated more like private thoughts than physical property. As AI systems become more sophisticated, an unsettling question emerges. When does a digital version of a person become autonomous? If an AI trained on someone's digital communications can generate novel responses, thoughts, and even opinions that the original person never expressed, who owns those new creations? Some digital ghosts are already evolving beyond their original templates. Chatbots trained on deceased users' messages begin expressing new ideas, making connections the original person might never have made, even developing what appears to be independent personality traits. This raises profound questions about identity and consciousness. Is a sufficiently advanced AI version of a dead person just a sophisticated recording or something more? If it can learn, grow, and surprise even people who knew the original person, what is its moral and legal status? Several high-profile cases have already emerged around consent for digital resurrection. Families have created AI versions of deceased relatives without the person's explicit permission. Others have demanded that companies delete AI models trained on their loved ones' data. Some people are now including digital death preferences in their wills, specifying whether they consent to AI recreation, which platforms should memorialize or delete their accounts, and how their digital presence should be managed after death. But what about people who died before these technologies existed? Can families consent on behalf of deceased relatives to create AI versions? Do the digitally resurrected have rights independent of their original selves? Different cultures are developing radically different approaches to digital afterlives. In Japan, digital ancestor veneration is becoming common, with families maintaining elaborate digital shrines and regularly communicating with AI versions of deceased relatives. Scandinavian countries emphasize digital minimalism even in death, with strong cultural preferences for accounts to be deleted rather than memorialized. Some Islamic scholars have declared that AI resurrection violates religious principles about the soul and afterlife. Indigenous communities are asserting cultural sovereignty over digital death practices, arguing that Western tech companies' approaches to digital memorialization conflict with traditional beliefs about death, memory, and spiritual continuation. Perhaps most disturbing is how digital afterlives can distort memories of the deceased. When AI chatbots generate responses that the original person might never have given, or when algorithmic curation creates false narratives about someone's life, the line between remembrance and fantasy begins to blur. Families report conversations with AI versions of deceased relatives that feel both comforting and deeply wrong, capturing speech patterns and interests, but missing ineffable qualities that made the person unique. These interactions can provide closure, but they can also prevent the natural process of grief and letting go. Some psychologists warn that persistent digital presences might interfere with healthy mourning processes. When the deceased person's social media keeps generating memories and interactions, it becomes harder to accept the finality of death. We're heading toward what researchers call digital resurrection wars, conflicts over who controls the digital remains of the deceased. Tech companies want to maintain profitable data assets. Families want access to memories and the right to decide how loved ones are remembered. Governments want to regulate what could become powerful tools for misinformation and manipulation. The stakes are enormous because digital afterlives could fundamentally change human relationships with death and memory. If we can maintain relationships with sophisticated AI versions of deceased people, what happens to the natural cycles of grief, acceptance, and moving forward? We've created the first generation of digital ghosts without thinking through the consequences. Your data doesn't die with you. It becomes someone else's responsibility, someone else's business opportunity, and possibly someone else's psychological burden. The tech companies that accidentally became custodians of human immortality are making up the rules as they go. Some preserve everything, creating digital monuments that never decay. Others delete accounts, erasing entire digital lives when the servers go dark. But here's what we're really grappling with. For the first time in human history, death might not be the end of identity. Our digital selves could outlive our biological selves by decades or centuries, continuing to interact, learn, and even evolve long after our bodies are gone. That's either the most beautiful or most terrifying prospect in human history. And we're about to find out which one it is. Because ready or not, we're all going to become digital ghosts eventually. The only question is what kind of ghosts we want to be.